The rain came down hard that November evening as Marcus drove his old pickup truck down the empty highway. His windshield wipers fought against the downpour while he squinted through the darkness. He was bone-tired after pulling a double shift at the warehouse, but he kept going because rent was due and his two boys needed new shoes. That's when he saw her, a young woman in a white dress stumbling along the side of the road, completely soaked and shivering. Marcus slowed down. His first thought was to keep driving. Times were tough, and he had learned the hard way that getting involved in other people's problems usually brought more trouble, but something made him stop. Maybe it was thinking about his own daughter who had passed away years ago. Maybe it was just the father in him that couldn't leave someone's child out in a storm like this. He pulled over and rolled down his window. "Miss, are you all right?" he called out. She turned toward him. She couldn't have been more than 25. Her face was pale and she was shaking badly. "Please," she whispered, "I need help." Marcus got out despite the rain soaking through his worn jacket. Up close he could see she was in bad shape. Her lips had a blue tint and her eyes looked unfocused. "Come on, let's get you warm," he said, gently guiding her to the passenger seat. Inside the truck he turned the heat up as high as it would go and grabbed the emergency blanket from behind the seat. She wrapped it around herself, but the shaking wouldn't stop. "What's your name?" Marcus asked. "Sarah," she managed between chattering teeth. "I'm Marcus. Sarah, I'm going to take you to the hospital, okay?" She nodded weakly. As he drove, Marcus noticed she kept fading in and out of consciousness. He talked to her the whole way, asking her questions to keep her awake. Where was she from? What happened? But her answers came out jumbled and confused. At the emergency room, Marcus carried her inside. The nurses rushed over immediately. One of them asked if he was family. "No, ma'am, I just found her on the highway," he explained. They took Sarah back right away. Marcus stood in the waiting room, dripping water onto the floor. He should leave. He had already done his part. But his feet wouldn't move. He thought about his boys at home with the neighbor watching them. He thought about the bills piling up on his kitchen table. But he also thought about Sarah alone and scared, and he stayed. 3 hours passed. Marcus had dozed off in an uncomfortable chair when a doctor approached him. "Are you the gentleman who brought in Sarah Mitchell?" Marcus stood up. "Yes, sir. Is she going to be okay?" The doctor smiled. "Thanks to you, she will be. She had severe hypothermia and was heading toward organ failure. Another 30 minutes and we might have lost her." The weight of those words hit Marcus hard. He had saved someone's life tonight. "Does she have family we can call?" Marcus asked. "That's actually why I wanted to talk to you. She's been asking for you. Would you mind?" Sarah was sitting up in bed, looking much better with color back in her cheeks. When she saw Marcus, her eyes filled with tears. "You saved my life," she said softly. Marcus shifted awkwardly. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Sarah shook her head. "Most people drove right past me. You stopped. You stayed." Over the next hour, Sarah told him what happened. She had been at a family event when she got into a terrible argument with her father. She had run out into the storm, upset and disoriented. Her phone had died and she had just kept walking, not knowing where she was going. "Your family must be worried sick," Marcus said. Sarah looked down. "My father and I, we don't see eye to eye on most things. He thinks money solves everything. I wanted him to see that kindness matters more than wealth. Tonight I learned that lesson myself." A nurse came in then to check Sarah's vitals. Marcus stood to leave. "Wait," Sarah called out. "Please, I'd like to stay in." "Touch if that's okay. I want to thank you properly." Marcus smiled. "No thanks needed. Just take care of yourself." He drove home as the sun started to rise. His body ached and he knew he'd have to go straight to work in a few hours, but his heart felt lighter than it had in years. 2 weeks later, Marcus was fixing breakfast for his boys when there was a knock at the door. A man in an expensive suit stood on his porch. "Marcus Thompson?" the man asked. "That's me. My name is Richard Mitchell. I believe you saved my daughter's life." Marcus's eyes widened. "Sarah's father." The man extended his hand and Marcus shook it. "Please, may I come in?" Over coffee, Richard explained everything. Sarah had told him what Marcus did, how he had stopped when others hadn't, how he had waited at the hospital even though he was clearly exhausted, how he had asked for nothing in return. "Mr. Thompson, I came here to thank you and to apologize. I've spent my whole life building a fortune, but I forgot what truly matters. My daughter tried to tell me, but I wouldn't listen. You showed her and me that real wealth is in the heart." Richard pulled out an envelope. "This is for you. Please don't refuse." Marcus opened it. Inside was a check that made his hands tremble. More money than he'd make in 5 years. "Sir, I can't accept this," Marcus said, though his voice shook. "You can and you will. But there's more. I own the warehouse where you work. I'd like to offer you a position managing our community outreach program. Good salary, full benefits. We need people who understand what it means to help others." Marcus sat down hard. His boys came running in, asking what was happening. He looked at them, and then at Richard, and tears rolled down his weathered face. "Why?" was all he could ask. Richard's own eyes were wet. "Because you reminded me what kind of man I want to be, what kind of father I should have been. Consider it a gift from one father to another. That was 5 years ago. Today, Marcus runs one of the most successful charitable programs in the state. He's helped hundreds of families get back on their feet. His boys are in college. And Sarah? She's like a daughter to him now. They have dinner every Sunday. Sometimes Marcus drives past that spot on the highway where he found her. He thinks about how one choice on a rainy night changed everything. How stopping when he could have kept going made all the difference. He learned something important that night. Kindness isn't measured by what you have, but by what you're willing to give. And sometimes the smallest act of compassion can change not just one life, but many. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below telling us about a time when someone's kindness changed your life. Your story might inspire someone else to stop and help when they see someone in need.